by the way.
Chapter 39. Stanley awoke in a meadow, looking up at the giant rock tower. It was streaked and layered with different shades of red, burnt orange, brown, and tan. It must have been over 100 feet tall. Stanley lay a while, just looking at it. He didn't have the strength to get up. He felt like the insides of his mouth and his throat were coated with sand, and no wonder. When he rolled over, he saw the water hole. It was about 2.5 feet deep and 3 feet wide, and at the bottom lay no more than 2 inches of very brown water. His hands and fingers were sore from digging, especially under his fingernails. He scooped some dirty water into his mouth and swished it around, trying to filter it with his teeth. Zero moaned. Stanley started to say something, but no words came out of his mouth, and he had to try again. "How are you doing?" It hurt to talk. "Not good," Zero said quietly, and with great effort he rolled over, raised himself on his knees, crawled over to the water hole, and lowered his head into it and lapped up some water. Then he jerked back, clutched his knees to his chest, and rolled to his side. His whole body shook violently. Stanley thought about going back down the mountain to look for the shovel so he could make the water hole deeper. Maybe that would give them cleaner water. They could use the jars as drinking glasses. But he didn't think he had the strength to go down, let alone to make it back up again, and he didn't know where to look. He struggled to his feet. He was in the field of greenish-white flowers that all seemed to extend all the way around the big thumb. He took a deep breath and then walked the last 50 yards to the giant precipice and touched it. "Tag, you're it." And then he walked back to Zero and the water hole. On the way, he picked at one of the flowers. It really wasn't a big flower, he discovered, but instead, each flower is really just a cluster of tiny little flowers that formed a round ball. He brought it to his mouth, but he had to spit it out. He could see the part of the trail he had made the night before, when he carried Zero up the mountain. If he was going to head back down and look for the shovel, he realized that he had to do it soon, when the trail was still fresh. But he didn't want to leave Zero. He was too afraid that Zero might die while he was gone. Zero was lying doubled over on his side. "I gotta tell you something," he said with a groan. "Don't talk. Save your strength," said Stanley. "No, listen," Zero insisted, and he closed his eyes with his face twisted in pain. "I'm listening," said Stanley. "I took your shoes," Zero said. Stanley didn't know what he was talking about. His shoes were on his feet. "That's all right. Just rest now," he said. "It's all my fault," said Zero. "It's nobody's fault," said Stanley. "I didn't know," Zero said. "That's okay. Just rest," Stanley said. Zero closed his eyes, and then he began again and said, "I didn't know about the shoes." "What shoes?" "The shoes from the shelter." It took him a moment for Stanley to comprehend. "Clyde Livingston's shoes?" "I'm so sorry," said Zero. Stanley stared at him. It was impossible. Zero was delirious. Zero's confession seemed to bring him some relief, and the muscles in his face relaxed. He drifted off to sleep, and Stanley sang softly to him, the song that had been sung in his family for generations. If only the woodpecker sighs, the bark on the tree was just a bit softer. Where the wolf waits below, hungry and lonely, he cries to the moon, if only, if only.